This year's GI Film Festival San Diego takes place May 6th through 8th and is sponsored by Creative Forces Community Engagement Grants, part of the National Endowment for the Arts Creative Forces Initiative in partnership with Mid-America Arts Alliance. Festival details at gifilmfestivalsd.org.
It's time for KPBS Midday Edition. On today's show, the arts and culture shaping San Diego. I'm Jade Hindman with conversations that keep you informed, inspired, and make you think. We'll talk about the proposed cuts to art funding in the city budget, then hear about some of the weekend's arts events, plus a preview of the TCM Film Festival. That's ahead on Midday Edition. So local arts advocates are protesting a proposed city budget that would slash hundreds of programs. It would mean losing $11.8 million. That's 85% less than they received last year. Organizers from San Diego Comic-Con to cultural centers and museums will be affected. Additional cuts would also affect libraries, parks, and recreation programs. Joining me to talk about all of this is Alessandra Moctezuma. She's a professor of art, gallery director at San Diego Mesa College, and chair of the city's Volunteer Commission for Arts and Culture. Alessandra, welcome back to Midday.
Thank you so much for having me here.
So glad to have you here. I know we've had you on before to do weekend preview and things of that nature, but This is so interesting. Help me understand. I mean, what could these cuts mean for arts and culture nonprofits in San Diego?
These cuts are really disastrous for our arts ecosystem. The near $12 million that have been cut from the budget are the ones that support all of our organizations, big and small. So they are funds that go to museums, small arts nonprofits, festivals. And historically, we've had these funds available for the last 30 years. And even during the most difficult economic times after the 2008, economic crisis, in the pandemic, those funds have always stayed stable. So it was really surprising to us that decision was made. Also, these funds actually come from TOT, which is transient occupancy tax. So they're paid for through our tourist industry. And it's a very small percentage of those funds. We always call it, we're trying to work towards the penny for the arts, which would be 1 cent of that dollar, but in reality, we get a lot less than that. And so that's how consistently we funded the arts programs. So this is a cut to organizational support grants and also to community event grants.
Wow. I mean, so these cuts are pretty wide-ranging. Can you give me an example of some of the programs that are facing cuts right now?
Sure. So, for example, these cuts would affect organizations that are, big and small. So some of the major museums, San Diego Museum of Art, Museum of Contemporary Art, the Menge, all of them receive funds, but also the smaller museums, Chicano Park Museum, the Centro Cultural de la Raza, and also nonprofits that are engaged with the community. A lot of them focus, for example, on youth, like A Reason to Survive, the Asha projects, and also some of our festivals. So funds go to Comic-Con and they go to Pride. And so it's a pretty wide-ranging, and a lot of these organizations rely on these funds to operate, and many organizations have also been losing federal grants because of the current political climate in the federal government.
Right.
So there's been cuts to NEA, NEH, IMLS. So some of these grants that we offer, that the city offers, also help be matching grants for other things. So this could also mean that for some of the smaller organizations, they're actually not just losing the funds from the city, but they also might be losing a matching grant. And then other organizations that already lost, federal grants are now going to be losing also city grants. So it's pretty dire, and it's pretty, it's something that we were really also disappointed because we were just starting the funding we just had the applications out for this year. Mm-hmm. And this year we were planning to fund more organizations that we've ever had. So 229 organizations were going to be funded this year. And so now it's a waiting game, because now what we need to do is work with so the mayor has proposed this budget.
Right.
And so now what's happening is they're getting community input, and the city council is also going to come in and make some decisions. And then so we need people that value the arts to come out and speak, send letters to their council members, talk about the importance of the arts to their community.
Right, because like you said, this is a dire situation, especially for some of those smaller organizations, and many of which who are now just facing closure as a result.
Exactly, and I also want to emphasize that the money that goes into the arts is an investment. It doesn't just disappear. For example, if you think of the 300,000 that go to Comic-Con, Comic-Con actually generated $160 million for the local economy last year. So you're thinking 300,000 generates those $160 million. If you look at Pride got a similar amount, and the parade generated $30 million. And so on. There's so many other organizations whose programming actually reaches out to our city, to tourists, and so it's part of the growth of our economy. And if you told somebody, make an investment that's going to grow 100 times or 500 times, wouldn't you do that? And then the other thing is, you think historically, the government, has thought of funding the arts as as an economic stimulus. So during the Great Depression, Roosevelt came up with the WPA program, and that was funding artists all over the country. And he did that to generate jobs, to beautify our cities, to provide hope and joy, but also definitely to stimulate the economy. Because, again, that money generates income for our city. So it doesn't make sense to cut it, because that means that we're going to have then, a loss.
Right. And, all of this, is interesting because, last fall, the city council actually voted not to cut funding for arts organizations. So I'm sure this all comes as a surprise for many. City leaders say, it is a tight budget year, though, nonetheless, and that certain programs must be cut. It's just about which ones, how would you respond to that?
Well, I think that you have to be mindful of a couple of things. And one of them is, what makes economic sense, right? If you're cutting something that is good for our economy, that kind of doesn't make sense. If you're cutting something that is providing essential services to our communities, because art is about creating empathy, engaging in social discourse and dialogue. It's healing. At the city council meeting last Monday, when the budget was presented, we had 180 people that spoke about the value of the arts, of parks and libraries. And a lot of them were young people from underrepresented neighborhoods. And so I think that there's this misconception that art is a luxury, and art is really has to be seen as something essential for our civic society. And so I think that a lot of people offered some suggestions. It is a difficult time for the budget, and there are a lot of funds that are restricted. So so that's why they're trying to solve this by going into the unrestricted funds,
And making those cuts.
But making those cuts. But I think, I don't know, maybe one solution would be to cut a smaller amount from different fund sources so that you can keep some of these other departments more whole.
Right.
Because they're cutting what are the smallest, almost the smallest departments, like youth services, arts, parks, and libraries.
Well, and I want to talk about a point that you made a few minutes ago. And, it's that, I hear a lot of people talk about how arts ties into public safety here. It's great for the community. And people have criticized budget increases for policing, which they say does not make certain communities safer. So what are our art advocates saying about this?
Well, we are. If you were at that council meeting, there were a lot of people that spoke about that. The fact that the only department that has an increase is the public safety, police and fire, whereas everything else is getting cut. And so a lot of the people at that council meeting spoke about that. And I would say that coming from a part of the city that's, very close to Barrio Logan, where you have this vibrant community of the arts. You have the murals, you have the Chicano Park Museum. People want to live in places where there are arts. Artists are the ones that make our city beautiful and interesting. And definitely that helps with public safety. Because if you are in a place that's active, where people are gathering, where people are using what we call those third spaces, the public spaces, that's going to make a community safer. So there are different approaches to how we can make a place, safe. And it's not always, me as a Latina growing up in Los Angeles, policing, it has there's a lot of issues where it's not always the first thing to go to for certain communities.
And it's not a preventative measure at all. You've been, really kind of deeply immersed in San Diego arts and in the community for a long time. What's your why?
So I've been a professor at Mesa College for 25 years, and I run the art gallery there. We bring not only student works, but also a lot of artists to show in our space. And I run the museum studies program. So I train students to enter the arts field and the museum field. Many of my students are first generation. Many of them are binational. Some of them are veterans. Some of them are older folks that are reshaping, their life and their career. And I trained them to enter the art world. And basically, after being here for a couple of decades, I have graduates from our program working at every one of our arts and cultural institutions in the city. And so I decided to join the Arts Commission because I wanted to create opportunities for my students. And because I live art or breathe art, it's essential to who I am. And I wanted to share that with others. And so I want to make sure that we have a cultural ecosystem that supports, creatives. And they've done recent studies that creatives bring $1.2 billion in economic activity to this region. They support, hundreds of thousands of jobs. And so I want to make sure that my students have these opportunities. And we are really building the city for the future. We are investing in the future.
Right. Well, the mayor is expected to present a revised budget to the city council in May, and there are public hearings in early May, too. Details of that will be on our website, kpbs.org. I've been speaking with Alessandra Moctezuma. She's a professor of art and gallery director at San Diego Mesa College and chair of the city's Volunteer Commission for Arts and Culture. And in full disclosure, KPBS's One Book, One San Diego program would also be impacted by the proposed cuts. The news operation maintains editorial independence, though, from other KPBS departments, executives, and other donors. Thank you so much. but you're actually going to stick around with us. So I'm going to have you stick around for the next segment because I hear you've got some recommendations for our weekend preview. Stay with us. Midday Edition is back after the break.
Hola, friends! In this episode of Port of Entry, we explore the efforts that made Assembly Bill 91 a reality.
A state bill that offers students south of the border a chance at affordable education in California.
We chat with the individuals behind this bill and the advocates working tirelessly to keep the dream of education alive for all transborder students.
You don't want to miss this episode. Catch it wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to KPBS Midday Edition. I'm Jade Hindman. For our weekend arts preview, we'll take a quick look at this weekend's big festivals, from books to theater to Chicano Park, and also some visual art and music offerings around town. Joining me with the details is KPBS arts reporter and host of The Finest Podcast, Julia Dixon-Evans. Hello, Julia.
Hey, Jade. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you in here. Also still with us, Alessandra Moctezuma, chair of the Arts and Culture Commission and director of the Mesa College Museum Studies program. Alessandra, let's start with an event at the gallery at Mesa College, Cartographies of Loss. Tell us about that.
So this is an exhibition that features two photographers, Monica Arriola, who's from Tijuana, and Jackie Castillo, who's from Los Angeles. And they both start with their work that is photo-based, but then they've actually developed these pieces into sculptural pieces. And it's interesting because they use the actual construction materials for framing their photographs. And they're both thinking of the urban landscape, loss in the urban landscape. Monica Arriola began her career as an architect in Tijuana, and she worked in housing development projects. And then she saw, after the economic crisis of 2008, some of these projects being abandoned. So this whole exhibit is centered around that loss of that potential, solution to the housing crisis. And she spins off of that by doing these beautiful floral arrangements that are actually made out of plastic, fruit and construction materials. And then she has a video that imagines this dystopian future of the city that she actually generated through AI. And then Jackie Castillo grew up in Los Angeles, and so she's looking at the change in neighborhoods, gentrification, how some places are being demolished and new things are being constructed. And her family immigrated from Mexico, so her father went from being an engineer in Mexico to working in construction in Los Angeles. And so she is paying homage to all of the people who build our homes. And one of the pieces that she did, for example, she printed this image of a building that was demolished, and she actually applied the photo emulsion to concrete bricks. And then she spent a whole day creating this foundation with these bricks. And the action of doing this is also part of her recognizing the labor that goes into this work.
Yeah,
What
a great way to express that through the artwork there. There's also some major festivals and events all hitting San Diego this weekend. Julia, let's start with the San Diego Book Crawl. What do we know about that?
So this is the 9th annual San Diego Book Crawl. It's in correlation with Independent Bookstore Day. It's bigger than ever. And what's cool about San Diego is we seem to say that every year. Mm-hmm. We're always getting new indie bookstores. This year there's 15 participating bookstores. Libalula Books in Barrio Logan, the Book Catapult at South Park, Verbatim Books in North Park, UC San Diego's bookstore on campus. There's so many. And the way it works is you get a stamp in your little commemorative book crawl passport if you spend $10 at any store. If you get 3 stamps, you get a really cute sticker. If you get 6 stamps, you get a patch with like the spaceship and the words "Take me to your reader" on it. 9 stamps, you get a cute pin. This is by artist Susie Garamani. And 12 stamps, this will make you the envy of your book club. It's a custom messenger bag. And you have plenty of time because it starts on Saturday. That's the official Indie Bookstore Day. And the crawl runs through Monday, which is great. So if you have a busy weekend, there's so much going on. You can just do all your shopping on Monday.
All right.
Well, and there's a map and hours for each store. It's linked on our website.
Okay. The envy of your book club, as you say. I love that. One other big local event is the La Jolla Playhouse's Without Walls, or WOW Festival. Alessandra, what are you looking forward to about this?
Oh, that's always so much fun. That takes place on the campus of UCSD, and you can kind of choose what you want to go check out. In the past, you've had like puppets, you've had participatory theater, you have artists. There's a lot of projects where the audience is kind of engaged in these activities. And so Animal Crackers Conspiracy has done some puppet performances there. I'm kind of looking forward to that because they're like some of my favorites. I love puppetry, it's kind of a way to, celebrate and bring attention to issues. And then, and I think it's just always a surprise. It's there's so much to pick from. It's kind of, you have to sit there for a little while to plan the schedule because there's a variety of musical, visual performance pieces that you can check out.
And plenty that you can just like stumble upon on campus.
Really? Mm-hmm. I love that. Okay, so quickly tell us about the City Nature Challenge this weekend and how we can get involved with that. What is that?
Sure. So the City Nature Challenge, this is something that involves the app iNaturalist. It's this app where people can photograph nature, identify things. It's also extremely useful for scientists. They can tap into this almost limitless troupe of community scientists who are making observations. And for City Nature Challenge, which runs Friday through Sunday, it basically puts all the cities in the country in this like little nature competition to get the most observations and identifications on iNaturalist. You can participate on your own. You just join the project on the iNaturalist app, or you can go to a bunch of events that are hosted by the Nat or the UC San Diego Natural Reserve System, including a couple of places you can't normally access. Like there's a hike at the Elliott Chaparral Reserve near Mission Trails, or there's this really fun-sounding bilingual nighttime BioBlitz with a bugologist. That's a Rice Canyon demonstration garden in Chula Vista.
All right, very neat. And we were just talking about this in the break, but the 56th annual Chicano Park Day is happening Saturday. Alessandra, what can we expect there?
Well, that's an amazing, festival celebration of Chicano arts and culture. I teach a Chicano art class, and I always teach my students and use the park itself and the murals themselves as a textbook because you go and you learn about the history, the culture, about from the Mexican Revolution to the Aztecs, and there's always wonderful performances. You'll have the Aztec dancers and musicians. And then the other thing that's really cool is that we have Chicano Park Museum and Cultural Center, and there's also a wonderful exhibition there of political posters, which is also very much part of the tradition and the history of Chicano art. I would say it's murals and posters that kind of began that whole movement, and it worked kind of hand in hand with the civil rights movement and the search for like affirmation of identity and it gave people agency, and so you get to go to the Chicano Park Day, and then you can go to the museum, check out the exhibition there, and I always have fun. I always used to take my kids. There's great things to eat. There's vendors. There's the lowriders, which are also a lot of fun. And so I think it's something that you can do with the whole family and really enjoy it. And I would suggest take public transportation because it gets so crowded. And so there's a trolley station not too far. But it really is a really wonderful, beautiful celebration.
Yeah, sounds like something you definitely don't want to miss. Finally, Julia, what's going on in live music this weekend? I know that's your wheelhouse. It's your thing.
So one show on my radar is a local band is having their debut album release show. This is Friday night at the Casbah. The band is called Poor Thing, and I had not heard of them until I saw this listing. They're a brother-sister duo. They're like this indie kind of grunge folk pop band. The self-titled debut album just came out this month, and it's incredible. Like contender for top album for me for the year already, I think. Right. Right now we're listening to the track Garden from the album Poor Thing by Poor Thing.
Feels like it happens all at once, so not at all. Not at all.
And the entire album is just like rich, it's diverse. It really does hit on a range of styles, but still feels coherent and unified. It's propulsive, it's tender, all at the same time. It's just a really great listen. The show's Friday night, and a couple of other great local bands will support. There's Please Ask for Paul and The Dimes also playing. This is at the Casbah.
All right, lots to do, and you can find details on these and more arts events on our website at kpbs.org. I've been speaking with KPBS arts reporter and host of The Finest, Julia Dixon Evans, and guest Alessandra Moctezuma of San Diego Mesa College's Museum Studies program. Alessandra, Julia, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up on KPBS Midday Edition, a preview of the Turner Classic Movies Film Festival. Hear from UC San Diego alum Charles Tabesh when we return.
Before a producer hits record or before a journalist picks up a pen, someone like you notices something and wants to understand it. Every day, we invite you to keep asking questions like why and who and how. Because NPR begins with questions, not conclusions. And your right to curiosity is a right worth protecting.
Welcome back to KPBS Midday Edition. I'm Jade Hindman. Turner Classic Movies and its TCM Classic Film Festival have staunch supporters in the likes of Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese. They've helped keep both alive during recent budget cuts from parent company Warner Brothers. KPBS cinema junkie Beth Accomando is also a fan of the channel and its film festival, coming up later this month in Hollywood. This year's theme is The World Comes to Hollywood. To preview the festival, Beth spoke with Charles Tabesh. He's TCM Senior Vice President of Programming and Content Strategy and a UC San Diego alum.
So, Charlie, this year's theme is The World Comes to Hollywood. And this seems to be a little twofold. I mean, you have some foreign films, but you also seem to be celebrating the immigrants who helped create Hollywood.
It's definitely the latter. It's definitely meant to celebrate the immigrants who helped create Hollywood. We always have, a couple of foreign language films in the festival, but that's actually not what the theme is. The theme is celebrating and exploring the ways in which people came from all over the world to create this industry that we all love. It's really astounding, actually, when you just start to look at all of the original moguls, all of the filmmakers, all of the composers, all of the iconic actors and actresses that have come from everywhere in the world. And that's led to where we are now with film. And I think it's pretty incredible. And so we're super excited about it.
And a lot of these founders of the original studios, they seem to be both very savvy businessmen, but they also really seem to love movies, like just as pop entertainment and as something to go see.
Absolutely. As classic movie fans, we sort of understand and appreciate the way that they merged art and commerce and created a real business that made a lot of money, but also that created a lot of art. We're all for the business side. We just don't want to lose the art side. And so we're certainly happy to celebrate that too, the way those two have come together for the film industry since its origins.
Now, we're at a moment in time where the film industry, film exhibition, the arts in general are struggling and facing a lot of challenges. So what's it like to be running a film festival right now?
Well, I mean, I think we understand the broader context of the world, of our industry. We pay close attention to it, but we're pretty lucky too. Like TCM, we have, I think, our own place within our culture and within the industry. And that I think we feel like we're both protected and strong because people care and we care just like they do. And so for that reason, we've had a lot of support and we've been able to keep doing what we want to do. And that applies to the film festival. So even though there's a lot of sort of things going on around us, we're super enthusiastic and really feel like, this is a fantastic festival, just like it's always been. And we're super proud of it. So I think we feel lucky of our place, understanding that around us is a lot of chaos.
Well, your festival seems unique because you're not a nonprofit, correct?
Correct.
But you behave sort of like a nonprofit because you pursue these ideals of education and film preservation. And it seems like it's an interesting place to be, an interesting juggling act if it is.
It is absolutely interesting. If you're going to be in the corporate world, I think it's you be in the one section that's a really small little piece of the overall business so that they kind of know that you're doing good stuff, but for the most part want to leave you alone and do your good stuff. And so, yes, we are definitely not a nonprofit. At the same time, we have, I think, a mandate and a mission that goes beyond just dollars and cents. And so we're able to pursue that. And I think that's really great.
So I have to say, the film I am most excited about this year is Letty Linton. This is a film that has amazingly not been screened or seen since 1936. So can you tell us a little bit about its history?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there were just underlying rights issues that are a little bit complicated. For that reason, it was in limbo. And it's a Joan Crawford that nobody had seen since it came out, hasn't been on home video, hasn't been on television, hasn't been in theaters. Our legal people for years had said, there's not, sorry, we cannot get the underlying rights to this film. On the Warner Brothers side, George Feltenstein, who I think maybe a lot of your listeners know, but he's the person behind the scenes who puts out the Warner Archive collection and does so much work behind the scenes on preserving these films and making sure that they're available to people. He's been working on this for years. And finally this year, and I honestly don't know the details of how he was able to do it, but working with the legal team at Warner Brothers, he was able to do it. And then on the technical side, the mastering team led by Daphne Dents, they restored it. They're creating a new DCP, and so it's going to look gorgeous. And so we're also really excited about it because since I've been here for 28 years, of the films that have not been seen publicly, this might be the one that people have been the most interested in. I think it's famous because the dress that Joan Crawford wears, and that became a phenomenon, in the country. It's just one of those studio classics that hasn't been out there. So we're really, really excited to show it.
I may have to line up at like 8 a.m. for this one. So the next thing I'm looking forward to, and I look forward to this every single year, is Craig Barron and Ben Burt putting on a presentation. They are the most nerdy, knowledgeable, passionate, delightful people. And I have waited since 8 a.m. to get in line for one of their shows. What are they going to present this year?
This year, they have selected The Towering Inferno, which I think is going to be really fun. I'm with you. We got lucky. We were introduced to them through the Academy, who had done some conversations with them, and now they come every single year. They have a fan base that loves it. Yes, they do just these great presentations about the technical side of the, special effects and the sound effects, but they make it really fun and funny. We love them. Absolutely.
And because these guys are Oscar-winning effects people, they get access to studio archives that really allows them to put together an amazing presentation.
They do, and they do a lot of research, and they do a lot. So they dig in, and they have support from the different studios. So if they need something from Paramount or Warner Brothers or Fox, they'll get what they need, and they put a lot of time into it. So when you see those presentations, it's way more than them just showing up and talking about it, as you know. I mean, they've really dug into the archives and done their work, and it shows, and it makes it really a lot of fun.
Now, most festivals are about films you haven't seen, unknown quantities. Your festival really allows us to revisit the films we love. And one of the things that's great is you also allow celebrities and artists to present stuff that they're passionate about. So talk about getting someone like Edgar Wright to do your midnight movie, because he's great presenting films.
He's great. He comes to the festival all the time. He's a fan of and a friend of TCM, and so yeah, to get him to come for Vanishing Point for a midnight film is really special. And we have some relationships with different filmmakers that I think really enjoy it and want to show off, whether it's their film or classic. Carol Burnett's going to be there to introduce, not just do a conversation at Club TCM, but also to introduce Strangers on a Train. And Sharon Stone is coming to talk about The Misfits, and it's Marilyn Monroe's 100th birthday this year. So definitely we love contemporary fans of classic films. And then also, as you sort of said, I guess, the filmmakers that just like Alexander Payne is premiering the new restoration of Citizen Ruth. And so, things like that are really kind of, we try to bring old and new together and just celebrate film overall. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, as your name implies, you do show a lot of classics that people are very familiar with. But I love that you also bring stuff that is sort of underappreciated. You're going to have Charles Burnett, the director, to show My Brother's Wedding, which I've never seen. And it's great that you're taking these films that may not have really been in the mainstream and showcasing them.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the goal because, and you said earlier you want to come and see classics. And a lot of times that's just to be able to see a movie that you might maybe have seen at home a bunch of times, but you've never seen it in a theater, you've never seen it with an audience, and it's a different experience. And so if you want to come and you want to see an all-time classic like Swing Time or Rope or Notorious, you can do that. But also we want you the opportunity to maybe see films that you have never seen before. And so at any given time, part of the goal is, you've got 5 venues going at once throughout the weekend, is to give people a range of things to choose from. Maybe they want to see this movie that they know and love. Maybe they want to discover something new. We really strive to give that choice to people.
All right, you brought up the idea of choice. You have 5 venues. I feel you're a little sadistic because you really have to go into this. Like, there's some festivals you can go to and you can just kind of casually attend whatever you want. But TCM, if you really want to see certain films, you got to plan this like a military strategy to make sure you can get from one venue to the other and squeeze in as many as you can. But yeah, I'm sure it's a huge programming challenge because you have so many films. But man, from the attendee end, there's some hard choices this year.
Yeah, well, I think when we started, it wasn't the intent wasn't to be cruel, but now I think we kind of enjoy it. There's a part of it that is enjoyable. And I want to give a lot of credit to Stephanie Thames, who puts this whole puzzle together, and Scott McGee and I work together on the programming, and it is a challenge because you want people to be able to go from movie to movie. So you want to schedule them that way, and there are format issues so that you can only certain films that are only in film can play in certain theaters. Certain films that are on nitrate can only play at the Egyptian, 70 millimeter only at the Egyptian. So there are a lot of considerations: the lengths of the films, when talent can be there, all sorts of things that dictate when and where a film can play. And then we're just within all of that still trying to give that variety of option, just eras, genres, popularity, that sort of thing. So it is very complicated. And yeah, at the end of the day, Bill Pence, who founded the Telluride Film Festival, once said leave them wanting more. At the end of the day, just it's better that they want more than they feel like they got to. So I think that's part of it too. Yeah, there are going to be hard choices, but hopefully, no matter what your choice is, you're going to have a great time and you're going to really feel good about the choice you made, because we really try to make each individual screening its own special experience.
The only time it hurts is when you're the person and the person in front of you gets in. and
Oh
you
man,
don't.
I know. And House 4 is always a big, gosh, I feel, it's not, I hate it. I'm like, I walk up and down, I see people in line, I'm like, oh, I feel so bad. These people aren't going to get in. We know it's frustrating. Luckily, the people that have come year after year have sort of figured a lot of that out and kind of know a little bit of the game. And when they have to get in line and understand that that's what happens, it's going to happen this year. I know. We definitely don't like people being frustrated. That's not good.
Now, one of the classics that you're screening that really feels like it needs a rewatch at this moment in time is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Oh yeah.
What went
We
into
were
that
very
choice?
deliberate about some of the films and this time and place and where we are, and that's one of them. And that's part of a series of outsiders looking in, filmmakers specifically that were born outside of America that came here, and then their view of America. Another example of that is Elia Kazan and Facing the Crowd, films that have a very specific view of what it means to be in America or an American and what their vision of what America is. And Mr. Smith Goes to Washington is a perfect example of that. And you're right, it is time for a rewatch.
All you people don't know about lost causes. Mr. Payne does. He said once they were the only causes worth fighting for. And he fought for them once. For the only reason any man ever fights for them. Because of just one plain, simple rule. Love thy neighbor. And in this world today full of hatred, a man who knows that one rule has a great trust. You know that rule, Mr. Payne. And I loved you for it just as my father did. And you know that you fight for the lost causes harder than for any others. Yes, you even die for them.
The filmmaker Frank Capra was an immigrant, so he's part of that group of, people who came here, and his films are, my dad introduced me to those films, and they're just like so inspiring and hopeful.
That's exactly right. And that's what he thought America should be, right? And I think that's what we want to look at. Best Years of Our Lives and William Wyler is another example of kind of looking at a different time and place. But I think, again, through a lot of these films, there is an attempt to have certain amount of thought behind the films and how they're received.
Now, Mr. Smith is a well-respected classic. I love the fact you also make space for something like Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
The nation's top comics, Abbott and Costello. Petrified, but hilariously.
Another well-respected classic, just in a different way, but it's definitely a classic, and it's really, I think it's one of the best Abbott and Costellos, and we, like I say, we try to show all eras and types and genres of film and film history, so it certainly fits. Absolutely, yeah, I love it.
All right, and don't take offense at this question, but the only film that I question being included is Ishtar.
This is some of our best work.
We're doing a tribute this year to singer, songwriter, actor Paul Williams, who, from my era, he was kind of an icon of the 70s and 80s, and he's been around and he's been doing a lot of great things. And we're super excited to honor him. And one of the films he said he was interested in introducing was Ishtar. There were other choices too, but collectively, we, including me, all think it's the movie has a bad rap. I mean, it's actually a pretty funny movie. It should be rediscovered. It's one of those that we're kind of making a bit of an editorial choice there too. We're like, hey, I think if you go and you see it, you're going to enjoy it. And it did. It got a huge negative reaction when it came out, like this big budget bomb and all of that sort of stuff. But as we know, sometimes those initial reactions aren't really deserved. And I think that's how we feel about Ishtar. Whether you do or not, I can't, that's okay. That's films people disagree all the time, but we at least think it's worth a watch.
I have not revisited it since it came out, so I'll be interested to see how it plays now. And one last thing, I noticed that at your book signing, you have Danny Reed, who's going to be signing about a pre-code book that he wrote. And what I think is interesting is, I met him, I think, more than 10 years ago at your festival. We were both kind of just fans, but he was running a blog on Pre-Code Hollywood. And it's so cool to see people who have this passion for film at any level and then sort of, turning that into something like a deep dive book on pre-code Hollywood.
Yes, I agree. And it's also great. One of the really best things about the festival is people come that are fans, and then they develop friendships, and then we develop relationships with them. And so it's very fulfilling. It's great. Like it feels like we can connect with classic movie fans. They can see how passionate we are, and we become friends with them. They become part of our bigger family. And I think that's certainly the situation there, and we're happy about that.
Well, I want to thank you very much for your time. And once again, I look forward to this festival. It's always a blast.
Thanks, Beth.
That was KPBS's Beth Accomando speaking with Charles Tabesh, Senior Vice President of Programming and Content Strategy for TCM. The 17th Annual TCM Classic Film Festival runs April 30th through May 3rd in Hollywood. Details on our website, kpbs.org. That's our show for today. I'm your host, Jade Hindman. Thanks for tuning in to Midday Edition. Be sure to have a great day on purpose, everyone.
Watch programs on your schedule with the KPBS Plus streaming service. See new episodes of Nature and Nova, latest news from PBS NewsHour and KPBS Evening Edition, local shows like Ken Kramer's About San Diego. Learn more at kpbs.org/KPBS Plus.